All right, so I just watched Beastie's video on how he's not a conversationalist. And the second that I saw that, I was like, bro, it's a lot easier than you think. And I just wanted to come on here and explain to people who think that they're introverted that it's really not that hard. Because I'm someone who used to be extremely introverted. I still am, technically, but I definitely stepped out of my comfort zone way more after college started. And I'll tell you all the tips and tricks, like a fucking ultimate handbook on how you can talk to people and how you can make new friends, because I had to learn it myself, right? And it doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just become a social butterfly overnight. It takes time, it takes practice, and it takes repetition, just like anything would, just any skill. It takes practice. Before that, I just want to say, like, when I was in high school, I only stuck with the same group of friends throughout pretty much the entirety of high school, plus like a couple of extra people, right? But mainly I stuck within the same friend group and I didn't really branch out and start talking to new people. But once high school ended, I realized that like in college, you're not going to be with your friends the whole time, rather like at all, basically. Like you're going to be pretty much by yourself throughout college. And so I didn't want to rely on my friends to get me through college. And I also didn't want to just be by myself throughout the entirety of college, right? I wanted to at least make friends for myself so that, when the time comes and when I need it, like I have people to talk to, I have people to ask questions about, homework, and have connections just about like everything. If I need math, I got this. If I want to go to a club, I got this person. And I can just branch out and have a bunch of people in all different areas, right? And so I realized that it's super important to have that. But how do you get them, right? How do you make these friends as soon as possible? The reality is, in college, it's really easy to make friends because nobody actually knows each other in college. Everybody's brand new, everybody's in a new place. It's super easy. And I feel like the most important thing is get out of your own head. For example, Beastie in his video was saying that he saw somebody who had a really nice jacket and wanted to ask them where they got the jacket from. But he might have like overthought it and ended up not asking anything at all. And yeah, I've had situations, even in college, when I've wanted to ask somebody something or tell somebody something, and I end up like psyching myself out and just not asking anything at all. But the way to overcome that is not to think about it too much, because the reality is, if you plan things too much, you're going to end up like overthinking it. You're going to think of all this scenarios of like, oh, they might say this. Oh, they might think I'm weird. Oh, they might, judge me for this. But the reality is they don't care. Matter of fact, they would love the compliment. You could have made their day by asking them like, oh, that's a cool jacket. Like, where'd you get that jacket from? You feel me? Like that would have made their day. But you psyching yourself out, not only hurts you, but it prevented them from getting that compliment. I just choked on my own shit. I was basically trying to say that it prevented them from getting that compliment. So last year was my first year of college, and I obviously knew that I needed to make friends like in every single class so that I at least had someone to ask about homework or about like tests or some shit like that. And I remember I walked into one of my classes, and everybody just picks their own seats. It's just, you sit wherever you want. And the first couple of weeks I sat by myself. I didn't talk to anybody the entire class. I just sat there, next to people, but I wasn't talking to them. I wasn't interacting with them at all. And maybe around like the fourth or fifth week of that class, I remember I walked in and I was about to sit at that same spot that I usually sat at. But, the previous weeks, like I'd never talked to them, like none of us interacted with each other. None of us even like made eye contact with each other. We didn't even acknowledge each other. We might as well have been dead, right? But I remember next to that table, there was this girl sitting by herself. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go sit next to her. And I ask her like, hey, is anyone sitting here? And she says, nah, like you're good. And I sit right there. Now that's like a level 0 interaction, like I gained nothing out of that. She gained nothing out of that. But actually in reality, I did gain something out of it. And what I did gain was my foot in the door, because I already started an initial interaction, right? It's super easy. I've actually done this strategy like many times with multiple people, right? Where I just, ask them like if there's anyone sitting next to them, and then I'll go ahead and sit right next to them. Now this basically breaks the barrier of like, oh, I don't know how I'm supposed to like start a conversation with this person. It's just like a normal ass question. But then when you ask them it, you've already made your first interaction. So you don't have to think too hard about what you're going to say next, right? So, the first week, that was all I said. All I said was, is there anyone sitting here? And I sat there, and that was it. I didn't talk to her after that at all. And the next week, when we came back to that class, I actually complimented her Crocs because I thought they were cool. They were like purple Crocs. She had like the gibbets on it. I was like, hey, bro, like, I like the Crocs, you know? That thought just came to my head, and I just said it right then and there. And she was like, oh, thanks, you know? And then, you know, we started talking. We had a conversation about, I don't even know. It was a long time ago. It was like a year ago. But from then on, we progressed like our friendship, and we progressed our interactions to the point where, like, you know, we got our Instagram, we got number, we got, you know, we started texting each other a lot. She became like a really good friend, genuinely like an actually good friend. And we started joking and stuff like that during class and after class. It was cool. It was actually cool. Another example was this year, actually, my first day of school this year. I haven't made a lot of videos talking about school this semester at all, but I guess this will be the first one. Basically, my first day of school, I really wanted to make more friends, right? I had a good amount of friends that I made last year, but I was like, that's not enough. Like, I want more. So then, you know, I told myself, like, I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone and talk to more people. You feel me? Because I'm not trying to be like a loner just sitting there throughout all of my classes. Like, bro, that's so boring. Like, if you at least have one person in every class that you can talk to and chill with, school becomes way more fun and school becomes way easier to get through. And so that first day, in every single one of my classes, I'm telling you, every single one of my classes that I had that day, I cold approach somebody, meaning like I initiated a conversation without any sort of prompt or provocation. You feel me? It wasn't like we were put in a group together and then I started talking to them. No, like I went out of my way to say like, hey, what's your name? And then, you know, they tell me their name. I tell them my name. I'm like, yo, like, what's your major? You know, and this and that. Like, it's the very basic questions, but it gets you in the door for the future interactions, because that first step is the hardest one to take. It's the hardest one. But once you get through that first step, it's just like a landslide. You know, everything just falls together and it's super easy once you get through that first step. So yeah, definitely just don't overthink it. Allow yourself to be yourself, be your true self, because the reality is nobody actually cares enough to like judge you based on like how you act or how you talk. They're too busy focused on like what they're doing to even think about what you're doing or what you're saying. And chances are, like, as long as you're not a creep, like, everything you say is normal, right? Like, you're not going to be a weirdo for asking them a question or saying something to them or even complimenting them. Like, no one's going to think that you're a weirdo or a creep for doing that, unless it's like a weird ass compliment, like your feet look really nice or some bullshit like that. Okay, but we all know that shit's that's like, what are you doing? Hopefully this video helped you out. Yeah, that's it.